My goal is to make a video that can be as useful as possible for people out there like me who are deciding to buy a wetsuit or to upgrade a wetsuit. So I want this video to be as useful as possible. So to test this wetsuit out in different scenarios, I took them to the two most common that I would be in. The first, I took it to my local lake where I usually do the bulk of my swimming. And this lake is fairly cold throughout the year, apart from the main 2 summer months. And it is the perfect size to swim in for triathlon. The second location where I tested the wetsuit out is in the beautiful crystal clear waters of Sardinia. This is a sea swim, so salt water, it's fairly calm, and I found it very valuable to test the wetsuit out in these two places. I tested the wetsuit out doing what I would classify as endurance sets and swimming mostly Ironman or Ironman 70.3 pace. I did this because this would be 90% of the swimming I would do in the wetsuit. I would do endurance long swims with it just to get used to using it during a race. Let's talk about the Sumarpo Victory wetsuit. So why would I classify this as a premium quality wetsuit? It's because of the material used and the technologies used in it. This is reflected in the price. So the first thing that is apparent is that the material used in this wetsuit is super high quality. The neoprene in particular is it has a super premium finish and it is insanely flexible in some spots. I'd never touched some neoprene like this in my life. So the thing I noticed straight away is this effort with this panel is so easy to do. It's zero constriction. Now we're going to find out in the water. So now for some technical info. Bear with me because I'm not a wetsuit expert. The Victory wetsuit is constructed of Yamamoto Aerodome SCS neoprene. This construction is crazy. It has different types of neoprene in different parts of the body, and it starts with the chest, which has a crazy honeycomb shaped type of neoprene that is supposed to aid buoyancy, and in the front legs is a 5mm thickness neoprene. And basically what these honeycomb shaped air cells do is they make the neoprene lighter, and in the same time they aid buoyancy, which is absolutely awesome. The next thing is the neoprene is coated in SCS Nano, which is a layer that decreases drag in the water, which makes these materials basically faster in the water and less subject to drag. Basically increased buoyancy and less drag meant that I used less energy in the water to propel me forward. Basically what these improvements in materials and construction mean is that this wetsuit, compared to a traditional wetsuit, it is stated that water resistance is reduced by 35 to 45%, which is massive. The second thing that this wetsuit aims to do is to increase buoyancy. And this is done, as I anticipated before, with different types of neoprene in different parts of the body. So on the legs you will have thicker panels, so it will keep your legs up and will make your body position better by keeping you buoyant in the water, on top of the water. And this, I will say, I could feel it like straight away, immediately. I would like to talk about the next thing, which is comfort and flexibility. And this, in my opinion and experience, was the biggest difference that I found from using this wetsuit. This was literally the biggest difference that I felt as soon as I put on the wetsuit without even swimming. The shoulders are incredibly flexible. I took the wetsuit out of the box and I could see already that the fabric, the neoprene on the shoulders, was super thin and it felt really flexible and stretchy. And when I put the wetsuit on, compared to my mid-range wetsuit, this felt like not having a wetsuit on at all. I didn't feel like I had a wetsuit on. The shoulder mobility is huge, and this, as soon as I started swimming and I started testing the wetsuit out, became apparent in the fact that I didn't have any fatigue in my shoulders, which I would usually have if I was swimming, let's say, longer sets. I would get some fatigue in my shoulders just by having to counteract the non-stretchiness of the wetsuit. And with Sumarpo Victory, this did not happen. I felt like I could move my shoulders anywhere that I wanted. And this is achieved again by using a different type of material in the shoulder panels. Basically using a 1.5mm thick Yamamoto neoprene panel that has a special inner liner. I'll read it to you. Specific 1.5mm number 45 Yamamoto Aerodome SCS Nano panels with the 520% highly flexible SQ Flex inner liner in the shoulder and arm provide ultimate flexibility. This is a mouthful. I have no clue what they're saying, but I felt it. I felt the shoulder mobility increase by, I've never put a wetsuit like that on. Like my really cheap entry-level wetsuit was thin, but the shoulder mobility was zero. There was no shoulder mobility at all. I was still battling the fact that I needed to pull my shoulder up. With this material, I felt instant difference, like really instant. So another thing that I would look for in a wetsuit is the ease of putting it on and off. And in this case, I must say the Sumarpo Victory is a bit hard to put on, especially the wrists are kind of tight. But why? Because when you have this wetsuit on, it is not going anywhere. It really sticks to your skin. And the other thing that it does, and this directly relates to a personal experience that I had before, was in core temperature. So this fact that the wetsuit is so clinging and so tight actually makes it so that the wetsuit really keeps your core temperature high. It really does that well. Sumarpo calls this the TI Alpha system, and I must say it does really work. As in, I never want something to happen like in Tallinn again, where I got really cold, and if I were to choose a wetsuit for maintaining proper core temperature, it would be this one over others. That being said, this is a wetsuit for like normal climates, so you can swim in normal temperatures, not really for extreme climates. Another really cool thing that changed from my previous wetsuit was the long zipper at the back, and the fact that the zip is just super easy to put on by yourself, so you don't need anybody to help you. Super simple, but it works great. One cool thing that I did not know when they sent me this wetsuit, but that I now am stoked on, is that Sumarpo is very active in using recycled materials. So they are part of 1% for the Planet, which is committed to the cause of environmental protection, and they use 100% eco-friendly Yamamoto limestone neoprene. So let's get to the only real important question that this video needs to answer, is would I recommend the Sumarpo Victory wetsuit to a friend of mine or to myself out there? My answer is 100% yes, if it fits your budget. Even just for the shoulder mobility. I could see the difference in the shoulder panel flexibility just by touching it, and then when I put it on, this was absolutely apparent. It's pretty hard to explain the difference that it made to anyone who has not tried this in their life, but the only thing that I can say is that it feels like you don't have a wetsuit on, which is absolutely insane. You put on this really tight thing, the second skin, but as soon as you put the shoulders on, you do up the zip, and you start swimming, it's as if you didn't have a wetsuit on, which is, I think, the goal that any wetsuit should aspire to. And the Sumarpo Victory does exactly this. That in itself is alone the single most important benefit that I found, and I have a lot of doubts in even going back to a mid-tire wetsuit if it is missing those enhancements. The buoyancy was absolutely great. Also, this I would say recommended. And the really high quality of the materials makes this a yes, in my opinion. The thing that I would be very careful about if I got this wetsuit is the fact that premium materials and this very elaborate construction might make this a kind of delicate wetsuit, so it needs to be handled with care. It needs to be handled with like putting it on with gloves or being very careful, so as to treat these materials with the respect that they need to maintain their status as new. So yes, I'm super stoked, first off, that Sumarpo reached out to me to make this video and to allow me to test out this wetsuit, because I believe that trying things out for ourselves can be a very powerful way to understand differences and if we really need something. In my experience, the increased flexibility and shoulder mobility is a game changer, and Sumarpo Victory is really cool in that aspect. So I look forward to using this wetsuit a lot more often in the year to come.